Welcome, my name is Lance Amato, and the purpose of this series is to shed light on emerging trends and sustainable practices that align with a growing need for solutions in the architectural and design space. In each chapter, I will open the door of discovery to our community and provide references to learn more, which they can apply to their daily practice. Welcome back, everyone. This is part 2 of the EPD discussion with Josh Jacobs. This is going to be more on the technical side of things, as we're going to run through the EPD form in detail. If you're interested in learning more about EPDs holistically, please look into part 1 of this segment. I'll provide a link in the description of this video.
So an EPD, Environmental Product Declaration, it is exactly what it sounds like. It is the impact that a product has on the environment when it's made. It comes out of life cycle assessment, another acronym, LCA, where we're getting data out of people's factory systems and their supply chains and putting it into an easier read document so that architects, designers, specifiers, procurement professionals can truly understand. There's lots of, it takes that big, massive life cycle assessment and boils it down to like 12 to 15 pages of easier, digestible bits. There's 2 specific pages that are really important here, Lance. The first one is that second page. I think you got a graphic for us there, where it really gives you details about what you're about to read, right? It typically starts with who is the program operator, right? In this case, it was UL Environment, one of the older program operators here in North America. And they are that third-party stamp that says, look, we validate that the information from the life cycle assessment has gotten into the EPD correctly. The second line that I highlight there is who's the manufacturer name and address. This one happens to be the Resilient Floor Covering Institute, because environmental product declarations can be product specific, but they can also be industry averages, where an entire industry association, in this case, the Resilient Floor Covering Institute, or RFCI, got together and put their manufacturers and said, hey, let's do a life cycle assessment of an average what a resilient floor is. You see the third line there is the declared product or the functional unit. This is incredibly important. So this EPD that we're showing up on the screen here, this second page represents 1 meter squared of vinyl flooring. So it doesn't represent all the vinyl floor that you purchased. You have to multiply how much you purchased by what's in here to get your true impact of what you've specified. The fourth line there is the product category rules, or PCR. Again, we love our acronyms in sustainability, like their air that we breathe. This literally tells you how the life cycle assessment data got into the environmental product declaration. This PCR is like guardrails or a standard that tells someone how to treat each thing and what assumptions to make, so that we can sort of look and say, okay, this vinyl flooring versus this vinyl flooring, at least we know some of the assumptions are correct. The fifth and highlight big line that I put there is actually the date of issue and the period of validity. So when did the document come out? This one came out January 1st, 2019. Happy New Year to everyone. And the period of validity, most EPDs are valid for 5 years. This means that the data is probably from about 6 years ago. We will start seeing EPDs update more frequently, I'm thinking, than the typical 5 years, because people are actually purchasing and procuring and specifying products because they have lower impacts. Well, as our grid gets better, as our supply chain gets better, the data comes down, right? The impact comes down. So people aren't waiting all of 5 years anymore because the data is older and their impacts show higher. But this one would still be valid today if you looked it up, because again, it was issued January 1st, 2019, and it's good for 5 years. You see here, this one's the EPD type is industry average. What that means, again, is you get a bunch together and you look and say, okay, this is all our group. This is what the average vinyl flooring you would buy. Then you have what's called product specific. Product specific is literally a manufacturer of this product. Typically, product specifics have said, say they make their flooring at 6 different plants, you average out those plants so it can come from anywhere. There's now kind of a third version that's called product facility specific, where people can start to say, I want my vinyl flooring from that location, because that one has better impact. The second to last arrow I have up here, Lance, is cradle to grave. This is the scope of the environmental product declaration. In the next slide, I'll actually explain what all those terms mean, but just understand cradle to grave is the most typical environmental product declaration today. And there's a couple reasons for that we'll talk about in the next slide, but this is basically the manufacturing process, getting stuff out of the ground from the supply chain, manufacturing it, and before it's shipped to you. This is the impact area. The final arrow in the last area is just who did the life cycle assessment, is all the way down at the bottom. So that's the second page. That's really important. But this page that Lance is showing now is the most important aspect on all the environmental product declarations. This is the results page. This is what people are typically asking for nowadays. When they're not just checking a box, when they're actually looking for data, this is where they're looking. When someone says the embodied carbon, I want to know embodied carbon, tell me your embodied carbon. That arrow up there is what they're really talking about. It's global warming potential, or GWP, another acronym. And that is basically, we all understand that carbon is not the only global warming chemical that we put into our atmosphere that got us into this climate crisis. But the embodied carbon and carbon word, it's just a sexy marketing term, right? That we've all latched onto to say, great, embodied carbon means this. Global warming potential takes all of the chemicals and all of the impact and it gives us a number, and it's expressed in kilograms per CO2 equivalent. So it does come back to carbon. It's expressed in a carbon because we understand that data. And then you see the different impact areas here. And you see it expressed as A1 to A3, A4 to A5, A4 and A5, B1 to B7, C1, C2, C3, C4. We can go into each one of those, but I want to, for brevity here, Lance, I want to just sort of explain. That A1 to A3 is that cradle to gate, right? Cradle to gate is literally that as it comes out of the ground, gets shipped to the manufacturing location, from the manufacturing location, and once it's about to leave, that's where that measurement starts. Typically, this A1 to A3 upper left-hand corner of GWP, that 2.13 is where people are looking. That's the data that people are looking for. A4 is transportation. A5 is when you're actually constructing. So when you're using this material in construction, what has to happen? The B1 to B7 is the use phase, and C phases are end of life, really. So that's the most important areas to understand of what we're doing there. So again, this is what we're looking at. This is the results page. And if you want to understand where people are talking about, it's that upper left-hand corner, GWP A1 to A3 of GWP, 2.13 kilograms per CO2 equivalent. That's the number of embodied carbon in this product. So like any new thing, EPDs can be scary. You know, asking for them, am I going to get them? Is someone going to tell me? Does someone know more than me, right? Any of this can be scary. It's like being in school and raising your hand and asking a question, right? I promise you there's sources out there to understand more. Lance is putting these up now and helping people get educated. That's awesome. The other side of it is, you know, just the more you're able to read these, the more you're able to understand them, the better informed you're going to be. Like any new tool, it's going to take time. But the only way we get really good at something is by continuing to do it. So again, use your resources. Just look up EPD online. There's lots of stuff. The USEPA.gov site has an entire thing up there now on EPDs because the federal government's using them as well. So please feel free to be a little bit uncomfortable for a little bit to get a cool new tool to be able to use.
This video is proudly sponsored by Kanoa, an innovative AI-powered collaborative platform designed for our community. With Kanoa, you can create and share data-rich mood boards, layouts, and product schedules with your team. Our unwavering mission is to empower individuals to craft superior spaces. To explore the possibilities, sign up for your complimentary account by the link provided.